hura tū manawa wiri, ka hura tū manawa pore, ka hura tū manawa uha. Ko tō manawa, ko tōku manawa, ko te manawa nui no rangi ka whakaputa ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama, ki tēnei punua pāho tātou. E kawe nei ngā kōrero paikea o ngā tikonohi o Whangara. Welcome to our very first Whangara Farms podcast series. And I say series number 1 because we're going to have more after this, fingers crossed. I'm your host, Hine Mihiata. Ko ngai te riwa I te hapu, ko ngā tikonohi te iwi, ko Whangara te ukaipo. And I'm excited to explore with you, our listeners, the rich tapestry of Whangara Farms, where our land and our people and our stories weave together to create a beautiful takapau for all of our future generations to come. So, we have 5 episodes as part of this series, and each of those episodes we're going to explore a key theme. Those key themes are our people, our taiao, our farm and the effect that the Cyclone Gabrielle had on our farms, diversification and what the future might hold for Whangara Farms. So, whether you are a seasoned farmer or you're a shareholder, or you whakapapa to ngā tikonohi o Whangara, or you might just be somebody that's interested in what Whangara Farms is up to. I invite you to grab a cup of tea, whakarongo mai, and be inspired by the kōrero that will be shared with us by our guests. The theme we will be diving into today is diversification. And I say diving into because I know that diversification can sound like a deep, scary pool of what does that even mean. But rest assured, e o tātou kai whakarongo, our guest today will demystify what is diversification and explain to us what diversification means to us at Whangara Farms and the benefits of diversifying our business. They'll also help us understand why embedding change will enable us to be better equipped for the challenges of a rapidly changing farming landscape. The Diversification Committee is dedicated to unlocking new opportunities that will build economic resilience for Whangara Farms, not only our shareholders, but our wider whānau groups, which will ensure the long-term viability of our business. I was going to say on our couch today, but really it's at our tepu. We have...
Paulina.
Yeah, our barlina. We're just missing the drinks. No, we've got some water. We have the beautiful Ingrid Collins, who, if you have anything to do with Māori farming, will know of Ingrid. She has been our backbone and chair of the Whangara Farms for 40 years and have been involved in Whangara Farms for 49 years. And you might hear me affectionately call Ingrid Auntie Googie. That is also her name. This is one thing I love about Māori, right? We have these beautiful names like Ingrid and we call her Auntie Googie. Hine Mihiata. And I'm P. Also joining us is Ray Leach, who is our business manager. He also has a nickname. We call him Whai. Whai is the Māori name or word for stingray, because like a stingray, whai is cool, calm, collected, but watch out for that barb because he can whip us into shape whenever we need to. Get things cracking. Nō reira, tēnā kōrua, welcome. I'll let you both introduce yourself before we jump into our kaupapa, and I've got some questions here to help our whānau understand what does diversification mean.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Ingrid Nia Collins. My name is Googie, as Hine Mihiata has already said. And when I went to school, they said to me, what do you want to be called? Ingrid or Nia?
Oh.
That's my name, Ingrid Nia King I was. And I went, I don't know, my name is Googie.
And it stuck.
And it's
Cool.
There we go.
That's what I was called at home, so that was my name, Googie.
I love that. That's awesome. And you've been the chair of Whangara Farms.
I've been on Whangara B5 for 49 years, and I've been the chair of the Whangara Farms board since we started into the business in 2000 and where am I? 14, 18. Yeah, so I've been the chair since then. So it was a whole new life, and this diversification is something very different.
Yeah, and it's exciting. We'll jump into that shortly.
Yes.
Ray, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Kia ora, ko Ray Leach aho. I'm Whangara Farm's first business manager. Thankfully, because of this wonderful lady here that offered me the post and changed my life in Gisborne. Our part of that strategic plan over the next 10 years. I now live in Gisborne, because my son married a Gizzy girl, and that's what it's about. And I'm privileged to sit with two leeches. I make up the third in the room, so I'm the Pākehā Kosi.
And part of the draw for this role, right, was when you came, you were invited out to Whangara and you saw the leech name on our 2-8 Māori battalion. And
I'm ex-military, so I saw Dave Leach on the War Memorial.
Yeah.
And Jasmine Leach took me out to the marae and welcomed me onto the marae, took me to the cemetery. And I'd never seen so many leeches in one cemetery in all of my life. In all of the villages in Wales and England that we hail from, I'd never seen so many in one spot, so I felt at home.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Ray's going to be coming to our next Whangara Kapahaka campaign, helping out in the kitchen. Him and his beautiful wife, Deb, they're going to come and help out. So, thank you, Korua, and nau mai, tēnā Korua. We're going to jump into our first question. Auntie Gogi, I'm going to ask this to you. Can you explain to us the role of the Diversification Committee?
Hini Mihiata said a little bit about farming at the very beginning in her introduction, and the whole scene of farming is changing.
Yeah.
You would have all known about the regulations, the rules, and the greenhouse gases and all that's going on at the moment. So when we look at diversification, we're looking at, and especially for our shareholders, we've got to look at something different that's going to give them the returns that I must say once a year when we have our AGM and we have our dividends that go out to our shareholders, we need to be able to supply that, and we have to look now to different things for Whangara farms to be able to provide that sort of pūtea to keep the farm, to keep the whole. We belong to the church, we belong to the marae. It's not just about the farm, it's keeping everything out there at Whangara going at the standard that we have got so used to.
In terms of diversification, is there a goal that we're aiming for in terms of how much maybe diversification will be generating in terms of revenue as opposed to what's already on the farm, or not quite yet, or what's the...
We're still in that starting stage.
Okay.
We're very much in that starting stage. We've dipped our toes into a few business deals, and I don't know if we want to go public with those, Ray, not quite yet.
We'll lock them in first.
Quite, we've got to lock it in and make sure that we're on the right track.
Yeah. Totally
different to our farming operation.
In terms of where does diversification sit?
Yeah.
So this is not an alternative to sheep and beef, it is additional to sheep and beef.
Yeah.
Sheep and beef is our engine room, it's what we're about. It's creating other revenue streams over and above. So paint a picture so that in 10 years' time, potentially we could be creating a revenue source almost the same to match the farm, the sheep and beef farm. So is there a number around that? Well, it depends how well the farm's doing.
Gotcha. So just making it absolute sure we're not getting rid of any of our farmers, they're not losing their jobs, we're at the core of what we're doing, it's absolutely still farming. This is above and beyond our current workload so that we can ensure that sustainable business income in the future, especially with that, I think I said earlier, that rapid landscape change within farming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. And the committee is made up of, I know, huge advocates for this kaupapa. Ray, can you talk to us a little bit about who the committee is and who makes up that committee?
Okay, so the Diversification Subcommittee is charged with delivering its portion of the strategic plan, which is about diversifying the business.
Yeah.
As I say, bringing additional revenue streams. So it's made up of representatives from each of the management committees. So from Tapawai Whiti Whiti, we have Wilson Karatea. We have Ingrid Collins from B5, but also the board.
Yes.
We have Hayden Swan from Parkere and from the board. And then we have Dr. Andy West, who is an independent board member, who is charged with the diversification piece. So I work very closely with Andy in terms of bringing opportunities to the board.
Right. And you sit on that board as well? You facilitate that board?
Yeah,
What's
so
your
I
role?
facilitate 3 of the subcommittees. So
Yeah.
I facilitate diversification and work for, I hasten to add, diversification, TAO and our people. And I work closely with the farming subcommittee and Richard.
Yeah. And I'm just interested, just so our whānau that are listening and watching today, they get a better sense of who makes up that board too. Andy West, he's got quite an interesting background in terms of governance and tech and innovation. Can you talk to us a little bit more for our whānau that might not know who Andy is?
Yeah, he's an incredibly intelligent guy. He's an ecologist by profession, PhD in ecology. He's big in the high-tech science space in terms of the use of enzymes for increased cattle fertility, human applications of the enzyme as well for the treatment of such things like radiation. But he also brings another element. He's not just a scientist, he's an entrepreneur.
Gotcha.
So he can combine the science with the commercialisation. So that's a real strength for Whangara, because we can prove the science and we can prove the model, but then you've got to turn a coin, and he brings that to the table. And he brings an immense network from his past. He was instrumental in developing and setting up the Waikato Innovation Park for dairying.
Yep.
He's working on the Tauranga Innovation Park for aquaculture and horticulture.
Yes.
He's associated with the Food Hub in Hawke's Bay, which is another innovation park, obviously focusing on food. And who knows, in Tarafta we may have something similar.
Could be. And I was keen to ask that because I understand that he doesn't whakapapa to whangara, but he very much has a heart for whangara. Maybe, Auntie, can you explain to our whānau the rationale used for selection of these committee members?
When we first started off, we thought we needed to change the whole makeup of what our farm would look like, and hence we set up a board of people that we could, like you've just said, and you've heard the whole whakapapa of what Andy is about. Before him, we had people like Mike Patterson, who was chair of all the sheep and beef farming thing, and that was the sort of talent we were looking for. People that could advance us into the future, not only for farming but for business. And we saw way back in actually 2007 and 8 that farming was going to change. And so we needed something outside of this. So we looked for the best people that we could possibly find. Card, who was in charge of Lochinvar for many years, and that's the huge farm in Taupō, he was in charge of that, an independent board member. So, and through the years we've come through like 4 iterations of the bringing on different people and outside people, just to give us a broad worldview of where we want to be in this. We don't only look at New Zealand, we look at what we've got to do out overseas and how we can bring that in as well. I mean, that was a big change for me because, the first 35 years, I'm only 20.
Just say it quickly.
For those years, we were totally focused on farming, and we've always been, top farmers in the whole area.
Yep.
And
won the Ahu Whenua.
we won the Ahu Whenua, yes. And you can cut this out, but I still haven't got over that when we went in for the second time, we got beaten by a 300 hectare when we've got
9,000.
We've got 9,000 hectares and we got beaten by a farm of 300 hectares. So it's never going to leave me that.
But hey, they were
just saying, Angel. Just saying.
But they well deserved to have that.
Absolutely.
They really did.
Yeah.
And as a family farm,
Yeah.
they really deserved. They had done so much work.
Yeah.
So this is why we decided to bring in independence.
Right.
And we just didn't do it. We had to take it back to our shareholders at the AGMs, and they agreed to this, that we do. And so it's not been just me and our different committees doing that. We have always brought our people with us. and you know, it has been a big change for it, but look at what we've done, you know, and this is it.
We've got some time today to actually explore some of the opportunities that the Diversification Committee is going to be looking into.
The independent directors they bring out, businesses tend to live in a bubble, and you can easily live in the Whangara Farms bubble, because it's a pretty cool place to be. But what they bring is an outside view, and they're fresh ideas and fresh networks. So, for instance, Murray Jameson, who's the other independent board director, he's a dairy farmer. He brings that to the table. He brings the farming experience to the table. He brings that network to the table. He understands what it takes to be a farmer. And so it's a really good balance that we have on the board and each of the subcommittees.
Yeah, that's right. And for the now, you know, that's absolutely what I think we should be doing, bringing in the right skill set for the gap that's here available, because then we also have our Whangara Farms People Committee, who will be building the capability of our own people, so that in the future it's Ngāti Konohi that are sitting in those seats that have the skill sets to be able to drive those initiatives and diversification opportunities, right? So for the now, yes, absolutely. In the future, we will be employing.
And those opportunities are starting to emerge, you know, with the native nursery. We're going to need someone to manage that nursery, which is a 365-day operation. And we're already identifying people from within the whānau that can actually fulfil that role. And also, you know, today the podcast, you know, we're going to need someone in the communication space. So we need to have, first and foremost, look within our whānau. Who can do this for us? Who can we bring in? And who can we create a career opportunity for?
There is one thing about when you do bring in whānau for some of the, especially the businesses that we're going down, if they fail, if we did that as well to protect our people that may, you know, like you're saying, that your generation will have those skills of the people we're bringing in. But if it had been our own people when we first started and something fell over, well, you know what would happen with amongst us as Māori, they would be banished for years. And we don't want that.
And probably their mokopuna and their mokopuna.
Right.
Mate, just quietly, I don't want to fail because I live here. And my name's Leach. So, hey,
so you fell, I fell.
I may be a parky, but there's a couple of things there going on, hey.
I doubt that's going to happen. I've seen your work ethic and the output of your hard mahi, Ray. I don't think that's going to happen.
But don't you think that it was good we were protecting our own to start with?
And we all start
we'll
somewhere.
Let them do the failing, and then we will go on. And then,
learn and pick up.
But this is why we did it sort of like this. We needed that outside experience. And to say, to be honest, we started off with just farming people, and then we've changed to sort of, we've got one farmer and the famous, you know, it's just amazing all the things that he's brought to the table.
Andy.
So that Andy has brought to the table.
Oh, yes,
So
that's cool. And so today we're talking about the Diversification Committee. We also have the Taiao Committee, we have the Farm Committee, the People Committee. I'm interested, and I'm sure that our whānau listening today will also be interested, to understand why you put yourself forward for this committee in particular.
I looked at the people that were there. This has been my life. This has been where I've come from. I was a partner in a medical practice, so therefore I'd come through my life with knowing business, and I'll say it, that I didn't want this to go into hands that I didn't feel comfortable with, and I knew that if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have no say in what was going on. Eventually it would get back to us as a board, as whangarafa, but I wanted to be there at the beginning to just make sure that we've got the right people looking after. I know that sounds, but I just wanted to do that.
You succeeded, Ingrid. You keep us honest, believe you me.
There's the protection of our mana that we have to look after. And so, as I say, 49 years and 50 next year, and I want to leave it when I step down knowing that it's in good hands because the young ones are coming through.
And you've helped create that foundation. And I know that the Diversification Committee, from what the work I've seen, you're not going out and you're looking at crazy opportunities like bottling water or whatever.
Well, I wouldn't discount it.
Oh, Ray. But
No.
is there a framework or a mindset that you apply to the opportunities that you're looking at, like maybe a tikanga framework or that cultural lens?
At the moment, the businesses that we're looking at are not, they're totally outside. They're a real diversification. But eventually that will cover, it will cover our tikanga. It will, yeah.
But you would all of the opportunities you're looking at, they fall within our values,
Oh, absolutely.
our whakaro Māori,
yeah.
our tikanga.
So, as the
Yeah.
business manager,
Yes.
I work with guiding principles.
Yes.
So, from manakitanga, rangatiratanga,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. That's applied from. I trust my Māori colleagues to do that part for me, to apply tikanga Māori. In terms of looking to business, I will look at the business case.
But-
I will look at our statement of investment policy and objectives. So that's our guiding document of what we can invest in,
Great.
what level we can invest to, and within that is contained those guiding principles and our values. So that's a foundation document in terms of what we can invest in, and what we can invest in must fit within our kaupapa.
Perfect.
Because it's an holistic approach.
Yeah.
If we want to do ecotourism, maybe on the retired land, there's going to be an impact on tau. So we have to talk to our tau colleagues, and also our people. What does the community think of that?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Is there an
Yeah,
expectation
yeah,
around that,
yeah.
or would that not fit with the kaupapa?
That's right, and they're sometimes it's not our shareholders that are, not all of the community are shareholders, but it's important as a Māori organisation that we still engage with them,
Yes,
because they're ultimately the ones that are living at Whangara, and for example will be affected if there's ecotourism, if they, something and they know the area, they can talk to wāhi tapu, they are the ones that are actually the kaitiaki and ahika. So we spoke a little bit about that, Auntie, in our people episode around that. Something I'm very proud about Whangara Farms is that unlike mainstream organisations, we're not very narrow into our shareholders, but our wider whānau, Ngāti Konohi, Whangara community.
And that's why, my role, I sit on 3 subcommittees: TAO subcommittee, our people, and diversification, and then work within farming subcommittee when I need to. So I'm across all the committees.
Great.
So any decision, any opportunity, I will always immediately think, how will this benefit, or how could this impact holistically on any of those other kaupapa within those subcommittees? So that's very important. And just recently we were challenged, and we've developed a formal ethics policy now.
Great.
So in terms of...
Which is kind of like a tikanga framework, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just got ethics instead of tikanga.
Well, let's change that. No, don't.
And tikanga Māori is referred to throughout that document.
As it should, because we're a Māori organisation.
Exactly
Absolutely.
right, exactly right. So it is about taking a multifaceted view of a business opportunity.
Yeah.
For me, as best I can, being a Pākehā, I go, does this fit within our kaupapa? How will this impact on our other subcommittees? What will the view be of the wider communities?
Yeah.
So what could fit? Aquaculture. Hey, we've got 57 kilometres of coast. I know. I nearly fainted when I saw all that water coming from an aquaculture background. So but I would suggest that would fit with the kaupapa,
Yeah.
Possibly.
And so what were some of the key drivers to diversify?
To go in, like we've said before, farming, the whole world in farming is changing.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to keep up with that. Even though we're doing our very best to make the changes that they want on our farming operation, we still have to be able to keep up with this, something that's going to keep. And in the end, I'm looking at perhaps this diversification is going to be helping the farm.
Yeah.
Because if funds are cut and we can't afford to do all the marvellous things that we do on the farm, what do we do then? Where do we get the money from? This has been the focus of making sure that we've got the best farm on the coast.
Yeah. Creating
you
that
know,
sustainable
the
vibe
sustainability
and growth,
of what we're doing, and that was why I think this is one of the main reasons why we have done that. And it's a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
It certainly won't be, and we want to involve as many many of our whānau as we possibly can.
We don't want it to change immediately because we need the input
and we need their backing.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do it without their backing. And when we made the changes, that and it went to the AGMs, there was no hesitation from our people, because they had felt comfortable, and they felt the people that were there in charge were not going to, run us bankrupt.
They're on board.
Yes, they are on board.
And with diversification, we had to look at the risks associated with sheep and beef.
Yeah.
So we were exclusively sheep and beef.
Yeah.
So when, for instance, when foot and mouth landed in Indonesia, it was only a whisper away, because it's airborne from Australia. If it had got to Australia, there are 3 or 4 opportunities per year that it can come across on the winds. So if foot and mouth hit here and we were only sheep and beef, it would devastate us.
So we're de-risking.
We are de-risking. We're looking at the risk and we're de-risking. So with different revenue streams, God forbid there's another Cyclone Gabriel, but if we've got businesses that are cyclone resistant, and we can have farm practices that are cyclone, as much as they can be, resistant, then that's going to spread the risk greatly.
Yeah, that's right. But I think with the time that we've got left today, I'm really keen to hear, and I'm sure our listeners are really keen to hear as well, what are some of the initiatives that the Diversification Committee are working on, and when do you think our whānau will actually see the change or impact of these diversification opportunities that we're pursuing?
We've already made a couple of high-tech investments, so that was in the last 6 months. However, what will the whānau see? Well, we're very close to developing a plan for a native nursery. That native nursery could either be just for the supply of Whangara to restore our retired blocks, or it could be a combination of commercial and for our own supply, or it could be fully commercial. So there's going to be a huge demand for indigenous tree seedlings in Tairāwhiti and Aotearoa in general. So there's a market. So they probably will see posts going in the ground to build our nursery on Whangara, or wherever the scientist tells us is the best place to put it this year. We're also starting this year. We've received funding from MPI of $250,000 to do a land-based kingfish feasibility study. Okay. It doesn't mean we're going to do kingfish. No. It's just a feasibility study. But that will be reported to the AGM this year. The other week, Andy and I were talking to an operation in Wellington who have the only commercial licence for farming seaweed. So we're now entering a relationship informally around conversation and corridor around how we can maybe develop that relationship. So there could be something there to report at the AGM. So there are a lot of things in the fire. We're looking at high-tech horticulture. There's all sorts of things. What the Diversification Subcommittee is charged with is they must deliver up to 3 business cases every June to the board for consideration.
Right.
Yeah. We're already ahead of the game. So the strategic plan stated that we wanted to invest in a business by 2025. It's 2023 and we've invested in 2. In all likelihood, we'll invest in at least 2 more within the next 12 months. So there's lots of stuff going on, and so the shareholders and the whānau will hear of those changes.
And how do our whānau keep up to date about these potential opportunities?
Communication strategy is key.
So listen to our people.
It's like listen to the podcast, go to the Wānanga, go to we're going to revamp the website. So
we need to.
All of that information is going to be there. So they don't have to wait until the AGM to get all the news. It can be trickled as we go. Because there's lots of exciting things happening in the diversification space. And we can keep people abreast of that.
And there's that in that communication strategy, we're going to make it a 2-way engagement communication strategy, right? Oh, excuse me, hopefully that didn't knock out for our listeners, sorry. Where we will be putting out content, potentially about diversification opportunities, and there's the space there for our whānau, our shareholders to provide feedback, give us their thoughts, tautoko, hopefully give us their thumbs up.
And there's also, as part of the communication strategy, an expectation survey that will go out to our shareholders.
Yeah.
In terms of what their expectations are for
Absolutely.
Whangara. And that's within our strategic plan. That's a KPI.
So that everybody knows what we're doing. We're not just running off.
Yeah.
Like you hear a lot of people just run off and do it. And then the shareholders are the last people to hear about it. And it may have gone wrong. And so therefore, well, you've seen it before, what it's like in a lot of, well, not only Māori, but in other businesses. But for us, we don't want that to happen. We want everybody to be up to date. And as you say, in the next session, the people are going to learn how we're going to communicate.
We'll take them on the journey with us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. We're going to take the time now quickly to do a swap in, swap out. We're going to invite Hayden Swan in. Thank you for sharing with us your insights, and thank you for all of your hard work in this space. I know that our future generations are going to benefit from it. Tēnā.
Kia ora.
Welcome, Hayden. No mai. Thank you for joining us on this episode about diversification. It's really awesome to have you here, and I'm going to go jump straight in to my first question. Okay. What are you most excited about in terms of diversification for Whangara Farms?
Yeah, well, diversification is exciting because we know that we can't continue to do what we are with the amount of risk that's out there, particularly with climate change. The Institute of Directors and I think everybody around the world has seen the effects of climate change, and us being coastal, being reliant on a primary industry such as sheep and beef farming, we not only feel the effect of the outcome of climate change, but we're also tasked with adapting our footprint to climate change to mitigate the risk. And so one of the things we can do is obviously on farm, and as we've heard before, we do need to do that in terms of the methane and carbon emissions that we have, but also what are we going to do for our business? Hey? And so how are we going to stay in business? And that's our core function. So we have to adapt. And so I think it's a hugely exciting space because we're getting into things that we haven't before. Which is interesting because I know. But that's the thing, right? But because we are inherently risk adverse, actually, and we're quite conservative. And one of the reasons for that, and some of my papas before me, I remember one of the first meetings I went to, sitting in a room with the likes of Henry Lardali, and he said to me, "This isn't our money. We have to be more careful with it than you are with your own." No, it's not. It's not ours. We're just the caretaker of it for now, and so we have to be super, super careful. But also, we know that just like times have changed, sheep were grown for their wool, and now it's for meat. Like there are huge fundamental changes that happen over time.
Wool, so what does that tell you?
It costs us money. It costs us money to share our wool now. We lose a significant portion of money for that. So we know, but one of the things is climate adaptability and the risk in that. So for me, if I can see that we are doing things on farm that help hold our soil and stop it washing out to the oceans. And so we look at best practice on farm, and then off farm we need to find other revenue streams to be sustainable for the future. It's the only way.
Yep, totally. And in our episode around taiao, we've actually got a little bit of a segment there that talks about how we are going to combat the issue of climate change with not only sustainable practices but our tikanga practices as well. So listen to that podcast, to that episode if you're interested to learn more about what went into that.
It's all interlinked.
It's all interlinked. All of these diversification, our people, our taiao, all of these subcommittees that we're going to be talking about in these episodes. That's really awesome. I feel super
Yeah.
inspired by your kōrero, so thank you for sharing. What, with all of these opportunities that are on the horizon, what would success actually look like for you as an individual? I might give you a little bit of time to think. I'll ask you that first, Auntie. As an individual in terms of this diversification space.
Just to see Whangara farms and the whole area, just to see it being able to continue on the title, the actual mana that we have amongst a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And I would like to just see that Whangara stays up there and all our practices, whatever they are, farming, diversification, taio, that's one thing that this has really been affected this time. The environment and the land has just been, well, if you've seen the video, it's just covered in mud and all the rest of it. So I want to see that Whangara is still up there, keeping things at an honest and a level that we have never been before, because we've got the diversification to help us. And I mean, if we have to pour some money back into the farms from the diversification, if things start, well, we all know that it's going to cost us money to keep up with the changes that have been made. And we've got, so for me, it's really important that some of the diversification that we do will filter back in to keep the farm at the standard that it has been at for all these years.
With all of these opportunities that are on the horizon, what would success actually look like for you as an individual? I might give you a little bit of time to think. I'll ask you that first, Auntie.
Just to see Whangara farms and the whole area, just to see it being able to continue on, well, the title, the actual mana that we have amongst a whole lot of people. And I would like to just see that Whangara stays up there and all our practices, whatever they are, farming, diversification, taio, that's one thing that this has really been affected this time. The environment and the land has just been, well, if you've seen the video, it's just covered in mud and all the rest of it. So I want to see that Whangara is still up there, keeping things at an honest and a level that we have never been before, because we've got the diversification to help us. And I mean, if we have to pour some money back into the farms from the diversification, if things start, well, we all know that it's going to cost us money to keep up with the changes that have been made. And we've got, so for me, it's really important that some of the diversification that we do will filter back in to keep the farm at the standard that it has been at for all these years.
Me mihi ka tika ki a koe, Auntie, te pautoko manawa o ngā pāmu o Whangara. It's a special shout out to you. 40 plus years you have built up, along with our other incredible whānau members that have been part of the farms.
Well, I was 10, when I went on there.
You've built that incredible foundation and platform that future generations will only be able to, there's only onwards from here. So, me mihi ka tika ki tērā o ngā ki o mahi, me tō whakarira kia pui oi o ngā pāmu o Whangara. Nō reira, tēnā koe. Hayden, same question would go to you. What does success look like for you as an individual and as an individual and wider for our shareholders?
Well, mine is very similar. It's so that we can all continue to be immensely proud, but in a humble way, We're not the kumara, but at the same time, but at the same time, everybody, all of our whānau should be immensely proud of what we're doing, the way that we do it, the tikanga that we apply to that, the inclusivity that we have, the innovation that we show, and so that we incrementally try to get better, and we can't stay in the same place, because if we do, we're going to be going backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of almost encapsulates me mea kupu tika tērā. For this last and final question, which I was going to ask around what do you think Whangara farms will look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
It will be the jewel.
Yeah? Of the East
It will
Coast.
be the jewel of the East Coast.
Of New Zealand.
Yes. It will be the jewel of the East Coast as far as farming is concerned. You know that the esteem that Whangara Farms has been held in for years and years, and this is thanks to our tipuna that went way before me.
Yeah.
And I just think that, in the olden days, we sat there as women and just kept quiet, and it's so changed.
Yeah.
It's so, we've got these amazing young people coming through as well. That was never heard of when I was growing up. It was, but yeah. So to me, it's the jewel, and it will be the jewel in the crown.
That's cool. I love that. We're talking about diversification in terms of a business, but actually it's about diversification of our people too, eh? We're bringing on more wahine, we're bringing in more rangatahi, we're bringing in independence, like we spoke earlier about with Ray, so that we can have that diversity of thought. So it's not just the diversification of the operational business model, but that wider community of people that we are here to serve.
And you mentioned that eventually we'll have our own people that will be able to take over. We may not need the diversification, the independence.
Yeah.
And to me, that is such a big step for us, and I hope that I'm still alive when we get those people that have got, look at this business.
Yeah,
look at this
pretty
business.
awesome, eh?
This is one of our shareholders' businesses. So to me, it's not about, keeping on with the independence. As I say, we needed that help maybe to start with. Yeah. But we're getting further and further into this journey, and it's so exciting.
It is. It is.
So exciting.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm with you on that one. Hayden, hei whakakapi tēnei o ngā punua pāho podcasts to wrap us up, take us home. What's your individual vision of what will be just business as usual, but also Whangara Farms in, say, 50 years?
Yeah, that we continue to look at all ideas, and if we keep our mind open, we talk to like-minded people, we collaborate, cooperate. It could be some joint ventures. We don't have to do this all ourselves either. There are a lot of amazing people out there. So using the best of what we've got, and coupling that with what other people have got too.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And great way to wrap up this podcast. Thank you both very much for joining us. Diversification, that's where we're at, whānau.
Tēnā koutou. Greetings. Ko Barney Tupara awau. My name is Barney Tupara. Ko au tētahi mema o te komiti whakahaere mō Pākarae A and other blocks. I am a member of the Management Committee for Pākarae A and other blocks. He mema hoki o tētai o ngā komiti o te puari mō Whangara Farms. I'm also a member of a committee of the Whangara Farms Board. Te hoanore ki te kōrero kia koutou. It is indeed with honour and joy that I use this opportunity to speak to you. He pānui tāku. I come with a message. He karanga hoki kia koutou a kia tātou. Also a call for us all together ki te marae ko Whangara marae te whakatā o tēnei wiki at the end of this week on the 8th of July on Saturday mō tētahi wāngaranga I reira. Ko te tino kaupapa o taua wā ko IT mō koutou, ngā pākeke, me ki ngā rangatahi hoki hara mai koutou runga te karanga me te kaupapa. You're all invited to attend Whangara Marae this coming weekend, particularly on Saturday. We are going to have an IT representative come along to explain how to use our phones, our laptops, tablets, whatever technology we use on a daily basis to be able to access what the world offers us. I just learned the other day what TikTok was and how that all works, and somebody at my age, that was quite a development, to be fair. But on a serious note, one of the things that interests me the most relates to communication, particularly for our older folks supported by our young people. It's important to understand, though, that in this world that we live in, that there is technology that we can use, and we're going to have the opportunity to learn how to use those tools that particularly for us as older folk, our young people, even our mokopuna, use every day. That's part of the day on Saturday the 8th of July. However, the weekend is the first of several wānanga of the iwi Ngāti Konohi who are gathering to prepare for an awesome event that's coming up next year in 2024, and that's the 85th anniversary to celebrate Whangara Marae, and I'm looking forward to that, to celebrate the wharenui at Whangara, which all of us over many years have attended for various hui no matter what, and we were all invited to attend the wānanga this coming weekend, the weekend of the 8th of July, as part of a build-up towards that, although IT is going to be an opportunity to learn about that stuff. The kaupapa itself is going to include a number of other things, particularly bringing Whangara Farms, the board members, the members who are on the various management committees for the farms that are part of Whangara Farms, as well as shareholders, pakeke kuia rangatahi, and whanaunga or whānau of those who are shareholders to come to support the kaupapa, to whakawhanaunga with our marae, to be part of what's happening under the umbrella and being led by Ngāti Konohi, an opportunity not only just to spend time together but to celebrate who we are. We have our whenua, we have our takutai moana, we have our maunga, we have our awa, for us to come together as whanaunga and to spend quality time together. The wānanga is being facilitated by our whanaunga, Annette Wehi, and she has issued a pānui, and I encourage us all to go to, and I think from memory, it's either the Ngāti Konohi Paikea Whitirea or Whangara Marae Facebook page, either of those, you'll find it, and there's a pānui there, and it sets out the program for this coming weekend, and also the dates for later in the year. Here's an important date to remember, the weekend of the 30th of September, and this is for all of our pakeke kuia karaua to come, because Whangara Farms, thanks to the organisers, I beg your pardon, of the Ngāti Konohi Wānanga, have been provided with the opportunity to use that weekend to talk about what happens with the farms, the whole farm operation from go to woe, as it were. So make a note of that weekend, the weekend of the 30th of September. Not just our shareholders, not just whānau of shareholders, but a karanga o ko to all of Ngāti Konohi. Haramai hakoutou, haramai tātou. Runga te karanga o te kaupapa. Let's all gather that weekend for a huge weekend together to talk not just about farming, to talk not just about our whenua, to talk not just about what we might do with our takutai moana, but to be whanaunga together to talk about the future of our people and what our land and our ocean can offer to us. Nō reira I runga I tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Huri no tēnā tātou, kia ora.